I'm Benjamin Hall, and I'm searching for heroes. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We're grateful you can be back on. Again, and I think I say this at the beginning of every podcast, we've got just the most incredible guest today, someone who lifts lives up, who goes out and tries to improve the world. Her name is Tara McCarton, and her daughter Audrey has CASK. It is a sort of gene mutation illness, and very, very rare. Only over 200 people have it in the world. But like some people, instead of hearing that this would hold her daughter back, she went the other way. She was told her daughter wouldn't walk, wouldn't talk. But Tara has gone out and made sure that her daughter is doing almost all of these. And she is surfing. She's running 5Ks with her father. And she now spends every day making sure that the world will be better for people, both with CASK and for any other illnesses or even veterans as well. So I'm so grateful she can join us today. And I know that you're going to listen to this, and you as well are just going to be lifted up by it. Wondered if you could talk, first of all, about CASK, about your daughter, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So thank you. So my daughter Audrey was born in 2012. And at first she was diagnosed with microcephaly, meaning that she has a smaller head and a smaller brain. And I wanted to find out why or where microcephaly came from. And so we did the genetic testing, and I did set up a Google alert for microcephaly. And it was so crazy because that was when the Zika virus came out. So I was getting inundated with all these different emails. And then when we finally did the genetic testing, it turned out she has a CASK gene mutation. So that's CASK. And it's a gene mutation which causes microcephaly and missing part of her cerebellum. So the doctor said she'll never walk, talk, or be a ballerina. And I was like, what do you mean by that? So you're just like overcome with like, and I mean, we just kind of went from there, and I just went into full mom mode and research mode and read everything I could on it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I suppose that finding that out, learning that early on must be a real shock when you are a mother. How did it feel at first when you learned she had CASK?
Well, she was diagnosed at 3 months of age. So it was I think it took me about a month, and I know everybody processes things differently, but it took me about a month to finally just be like, okay, there's something wrong here. But what am I going to do about it? Like you can't just accept it. I'm all about not letting the diagnosis define her.
Absolutely. Let's find out what we're going to do, yes. How we're going to do it. And so how did that happen for you? What did you know that you had to start looking for? And what were your steps?
Well, there were so many little miracles, if you say, like that came about. I did have some family that were doctors. So my cousin happened to be marrying the chief pediatric neurologist up at Boston Mass General. I was working at a financial services firm at the time. They flew me up to Boston. So I went to Boston Children's Hospital and Boston Mass General in one day, had an CAT scan, and the CAT scan said that she had microcephaly. But that, like I said, I wanted to find out why. And that's when the doctors told me, again, she'll never walk, talk, or be a ballerina because she was missing part of her cerebellum, which controls muscle coordination and movement.
So is that something that you were noticing? I mean, at what age did you start to notice that Audrey was
Well, it was crazy. She was sitting next to my friend's child on the couch, and my friend's child head was quite larger than Audrey, but Audrey always looked proportionate to me, so I didn't think anything of it, but she was smiling and everything. And then for her 3-month checkup, the doctor wrote down microcephaly on a piece of paper and sent me home with it. And I was like, so I Googled it, and I called my husband up, who's a retired New York City detective, but he was working at the time. He came home, went into the doctor's office, and was like, what did you tell my wife? Because she's hysterical. Like, what does this even mean? And it was just,
it's a strange thing just to give it to you on a piece of paper.
A Post-it note. Yes. Handed it to me on a Post-it note.
So what did he say when your husband went in and asked him why?
he was just like, well, he's very matter-of-factual doctor. So he was just like, well, I want her to realize, what needs to be done. She needs to have a CAT scan right away, ASAP. We went to the first neurologist we went to who did the CAT scan was just not really that helpful at all. And she was just like, don't have another child. concentrate everything on Audrey. I'm like, who are you to play God and tell me not to have another child, and don't do this. She'll never qualify for early intervention. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And you didn't believe at the time any of those, and you
No.
probably said to yourself, and we will talk in a bit as well how much Audrey has done since, but did you just say to yourself, I'm not going to listen to everything they said. I'm going to make sure that we find a way through?
1,000%. And they even said that she goes, the doctor said she would have a 1 out of 7 chance of having seizures. I'm like, oh, so she'll have a 6 out of 7 chance of not having seizures. And the doctor goes, who thinks like that? I'm like, hello, me, I do. So, and we went from there. And like I said, it's like it's something that just takes over inside of you, and this resilience comes out, and I just have to like focus on.
I mean, I wonder, taking a step back, lots of people don't have that. They can't find that sort of resilience. Well, how do you explain why you have it, where that came from?
I mean, once you're told, me personally, if I'm told I can't do something, it just makes me want to do it even more. So,
you've been your whole life like that?
My whole life. So if you're telling me that my daughter can't walk, I don't believe that. Like, there's so much that the doctors in the medical field do not know about the brain, right? So there has to be other parts that are working that'll make up for the ones that don't. Yeah. And that's what I thought. And I said, I will find any kind of therapy. One of my friends happened to be an occupational therapist, so she immediately got me into early intervention. So I'm a big component of that.
When you say early intervention, what do you mean exactly?
So early intervention is a service that they have, I believe, in all of America, in all the states. It does vary state by state, but it's services that intervene early from birth to 3 years old. And they will help with speech, PT, OT, and any kind of like different services that you need. So Audrey immediately got into all those.
So what kind
services.
of therapy would they be doing with someone so young? Is it moving their muscles, their limbs, and what
Absolutely.
else?
For the physical therapy, yes. So moving her and just manipulating her body all over, which, kind of looks a little silly, but it makes sense, because she would be like doing these plank things that I didn't realize at the time. I'm like, oh, she looks like she's planking. I'm like, but, to make her, I guess, more mobile. Yeah. So they're manipulating her. Occupational therapy, which works on fine motor skills. So having her, it's called like a pincher grip. I learned so much. And apparently if babies hold their thumbs in like this, they hold their thumbs in, that's a sign that there's something wrong, as opposed to thumbs being out. I never noticed these things until...
That's interesting. So if you were looking at a baby just lying there, if its thumbs are inside its fingers, then you should definitely go...
question a little bit or tell your doctor that. Wow. I never knew that. Huh. And then with the speech and feeding, she apparently never give a child a sippy cup, like have them use straw, because it helps with the mouth muscles, and manipulating like the different mouth muscles so that they'll be able to talk.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about Audrey's speech and when you started to know that she was so young, so she wasn't speaking, so maybe some people wouldn't notice when they're young, but how did you see this? When did you start noticing that speech was a problem?
Well, I just knew that I had to get her into every therapy that was out there, because you never know what's going to be that little spark that's going to ignite something in her, right? So not only did we do PT, OT, and speech, we also did aquatherapy. We did hippotherapy, which is with horses. We did intense physical therapy at this wonderful intense physical therapy place called Keep Moving Forward, where people from all over the world go to. And you name it, music therapy is a big thing too.
Tell me a little bit about the horses therapy. I mean, because Audrey would have been so small. Explain that. Is she on the horse? Is the horse sort of...
She's on the horse, and they also work with veterans too. So they work with disabled children, and they work with veterans. So they would put her on the horse, and sometimes backwards she would ride it. And there would be two...
What is so beneficial about it?
It's the movement and how the horse moves and how it just, I guess, her body responds to it. And it's also a calming effect for kids with disabilities and veterans too.
It's remarkable, because when I was sort of recovering in hospital, I was very surprised to learn that they put a lot of the amputees and the veterans on horses as well. And it's not only how they move, but you can also really connect with the horse. They have an incredible sort of emotional connection, which again, I didn't know much about.
Did you do that when you were?
I have not done it yet. And I keep being asked if I will go out and ride as well. But I should do, because it will strengthen up exactly the right muscles.
Exactly. And it like works all the different muscle groups. So I think it's amazing.
Wow. So talk to me about Audrey today. I mean, because I know she's come such a long long, long way, further than anyone really thought or the doctors thought might be possible.
Yeah, so she is probably there. Well, first there's about 230 girls with CASK. Not just girls, but there are some boys because it's an
That's it?
Yes, because it's in the entire world because it's an X chromosome linked disorder.
Huh.
So when Audrey was diagnosed, she was number 54 in the world.
Gosh, that's quite a jump up then, isn't it? In
Yes.
not so many years.
Well, I think it's because we're out there and we're talking about it. And then you join, a Facebook group or something with all parents. So that community of support has been so instrumental.
Yeah.
But I've learned so much too. And all the girls look similar. They have this gorgeous hair. It's amazing. They all bite their left hands, which is just so makes me wonder about like nature versus nurture and like how like they have these traits that are just so similar, and it just it's kind of mind-blowing to me. But
Well,
it's
but Audrey is surfing. She's doing 5Ks with your husband.
Yes.
Tell me about those.
So she just inspires so many people. She surfs with Camp Anchor, which is this amazing special needs camp in Long Island. And she surfs with Amp Surf, which is the amputee surfing that we do out in Rockaway Beach, which is amazing. And Dana, I think his name is Dana, and he has it all over the world between like California and New York. And I mean, she surfs, and when you see her smile light up on the surfboard, and somebody will sit with her on the surfboard and they paddle out, and then when she catches the wave they stand her up and her face just lights up. I mean, people just can't stop.
So she can stand up by herself once she's up, and she can ride that
she
wave
rides the wave in. I can't do that. It's amazing to
me. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and she runs all around. She does walk. She does need help, like guidance. Like there would be like safety issues if she wasn't like with somebody, but she does, walk all around, and she's just, and one of the very few that do walk. So that's interesting to me too.
More of our conversation right after this. How is she sort of cognitively?
Cognitively, she's gotten a lot better. She has an iPad device now, so she uses an iPad to communicate. So we've been working on that very consistently. So she is an ABA therapist at home, which is a applied behavioral analysis therapist that comes to the house every day too. So we have one of them, and she's in a special school, and they work with her on her communication skills with the iPad. So that I know, because the hardest part about being a mom, I think, is if something's bothering her, because she is nonverbal. I like to say pre-verbal, but she is, because I do believe somehow, someday she will be able to give her graduation speech in whatever form that looks like. I know it's going to happen because I believe it, and it will.
Wow.
So
amazing. Now, I wanted to talk also about the book that I've got in front of me right here called The Wish.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about why you put this together.
So my other daughter, Vivian, who is 9 years old right now, but at the time she was 3, and we had a Santa Claus app, and she was talking to Santa, and Santa said, "Vivian, what do you want for Christmas?" And she just blurted out, "I want Audrey to talk." And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I have to do something with this. I was, I work in banking. I'm not an author. And so I had all these ideas in my head about making a fairy tale. I Googled how do you write a fairy tale, because there's certain elements that you need to make a fairy tale. And then it's funny, when you self-publish a book, they try to give you an illustrator that'll draw pictures for you, but none of the pictures were matching what I thought would be in my head, these pictures of what the fairies would look like. And then we were at, we have this respite community that I could talk about in a little bit, but we have this respite community, and one of the girls from the respite community, she's 22 years old. Her name is Allison Legault, and she has autism, and she invited us to her puppy birthday party. So I took the girls, we went to her puppy birthday party, and she had these pictures of these fairies all over her house. And I was like, those are the pictures that are in my head from the story. And so I asked her, I said, "Allison, would you like to be the illustrator for my book? I have all these ideas and I want to run it by you." And she goes, "Well, will I be famous?" I'm like, "Of course you're going to be famous." And she's like, "All right, let's do it." Then I asked her mom, and then the book came out.
What I love there is that, when you heard those words, I wish that Audrey could speak, you didn't say, "Oh, she can't." You said, let's find a way for her to spread her voice. That's that incredible resilience and strength, which I'm so amazed to see in you. Like, that's remarkable that's how you've thought.
And I didn't even think of it that way when you just put it that way. But yeah, I mean, that's just the way that I am, and that, my family, we believe, we have very strong faith. Yeah. And I just believe if, you pray and you're a good person, you spread kindness and inclusion, and good things will happen to good people.
I don't know if it's a tough question or not, but with all your faith, how do you sometimes think, that God, that CASK exists, that God, puts that on some people who are born?
I know, it's like, in a way, I do wonder about it. I do, but I believe that God is good and that it happened for a reason. But I do believe things happen for a reason, but they don't happen for a reason. But I believe that I was born to be her mom.
Yeah.
And that I'm just so proud to be her mom. And my husband's wonderful with her too. And she, if we could just, I guess, talk about it and educate more people about what CASK is and the different, different attributes that come with it. And the more that we talk about it, we will find a cure for it one day.
And I suppose if you look at all the people that you've helped, the amazing strength it's given you, in a sense, you've taken what's happened and you've done so much more good. So, that is this really incredible sign, I think. But you help in so many other ways as well, for example. I mean, you've helped veterans for many, many years.
Yes,
tell me about that.
I started mentoring veterans when I was working in another bank and through American Corporate Partners. And
were these veterans with sort of PTSD or veterans with injuries?
Veterans that just came out of service.
Which is such a difficult time. I've spoken to so many who say for many years they have this community around them, know what they're doing. And that moment where you leave the military is sometimes, those are the hardest moments right there to find your path forward.
Yes. And so to transition them into like the banking sector for that they want to go in, or whatever kind of sector that they do want to go in. So I just love being, taking their skill set, which is so important, and how they've helped this country. And I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we all touch somebody in some way, and I want to give back.
How do you explain, though? I mean, there aren't many people who think that way, who want to help. And I wonder why. Like, why do most people not reach out to do that much good? I don't know. It makes me feel good to do that. It does. I mean, I don't understand why people wouldn't want to help. I think I try to surround myself with people that do help, because I believe the more people that do, this world will just be a better place. Obviously, you know that. And it's just, but to help veterans, it's so rewarding. And my very first veteran, his name is Diego Rubio, and he was one of now the co-founders of Women's Veterans on Wall Street. And he gives speeches and talks, and sometimes I sit in the audience and I'm like, oh, and I have a tear in my eye because I'm just so proud of him, and he's done so much, and he said he will never forget me, and I was his first mentor. So that's another thing you've done, those women veterans as well. You specifically then want to go and help women veterans as well.
Yes, and spouses. So I love mentoring the spouses too.
Is there anyone you don't help?
No, I do, but I have this in me where I just want to help. And you never know, you might spark something in that person, and then they pass it on, and it's kind of like a ripple effect.
Were you ever concerned, at the beginning when Audrey was born, about how she would fit into sort of wider society, whether there would be a place for her, whether there would be a school for her, whether there would be the physios for her? Did that worry you at any point?
It did, but I also knew that I had such an amazing support group around me. Like I said, my husband, he's retired NYPD. He's the rock of our family too. He's so supportive, and just, my family in general, my sister's a school teacher. Everybody's helped. And we also have, and coincidentally, we have this, it's called, the church that we go to is St. Anne's, and they have a respite program, which I didn't even know. But when I was signing her up for her baptism, they were like, Tara, we have a respite program. I'm like, what's respite? I don't even know what that means. And they said, oh, it's where people from the community have kids with special needs, and everybody that goes to school and in the church and the parish will help watch your kids every other Friday night for 2 hours so that all the parents can go out and enjoy themselves. And I'm like, and it's such a weight to be lifted off of you when you're in a community like that. That's so helpful.
Tell me a bit about the respite program.
So it's at St. Anne's, which is the church that we go to. And every other Friday, the kids go, and even Vivian gets to go, and she gets to, be a little helper and help with all the other. And that's where I met Allison, who was the illustrator of the book. But it's just wonderful that other people who are helpers that come to the community, you know what I mean, and help us, because it's hard being a special needs mom. No,
absolutely. I mean, I suppose, would you tell me sometimes, like, what are the hardest parts of it?
The hardest parts is like when Audrey can't communicate. If 90% of the time, I say 95% of the time, she's so happy, biggest smile on her face, but when she's not. Like, just for example, like right now, she has such bad allergies. So you just see her, and she doesn't know to blow her nose. She doesn't know not to rub her eyes. And she's rubbing her eyes, and her eyes are so black, and her face is all red and blotchy.
It's hard. What do you do? How do you stop her rubbing her eyes when she doesn't know not?
She doesn't know not to. Yeah. There's nothing I can really do. Yeah. And everyone feels so bad because she looks so bad, because she's so, it's hard. And so the iPad too, you can use it to communicate. And so.
And maybe she's using her hands in another way. So it's rather than.
So I'm like, what hurts? Even though I know it's allergies, but just for example, if she had a bellyache, I wouldn't know that her tummy hurt her, but I just know that even though she can't tell me, but she could point to, on the iPad, it says like, I feel, and then I had them put different body parts. So if she points to her belly, or if she like rubs her belly, I'm like, oh, your belly hurts.
Oh, interesting. So she's able to explain sort of to that level. She's sort of able to explain how she's feeling and what is hurting.
And I believe that she really is cognitively understands what's going on. Like when she loves watching television, there's different shows and movies that she loves, but she will watch I always have closed caption on so that she can hopefully read one day, but I don't know if she is reading, but she knows what's on, what she likes, what she doesn't like. She will grab the remote from you, try to change a channel. Oh. So, and everybody, it's like the babysitters that help us, because I have an amazing tribe of babysitters. Mm-hmm. And sometimes like new ones will be like, well, how will I know what she wants, when she wants it? I'm like, you spend 10 minutes with Audrey, you will know what she wants.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
What about, there must be a very close connection between you and other mothers who have sort of, children with CASK or other things. What is that connection like? What is that unity and community like?
It is such a fierce community of warriors. I swear. So there's a Facebook group of all of us moms, and I'm a part of this foundation called ACNRF USA, which is Angelina CASK Neurological Research Foundation, started by another fierce warrior mom in Australia. And she wanted to open up a US foundation just so that we could get more exposure with like drug companies here to try to find a cure for CASK in the US. And then we partnered with a UK foundation, CASK Research, and another foundation in France. So there's 4 different countries. And we all, support each other, and we try to, raise funds for a cure CASK. So we're working with UC Davis out in California for a gene reactivation therapy, because it's an X chromosome linked disorder.
So talk to me about a potential. They're looking for cures, or perhaps for ways of handling CASK. What is UC Davis looking at? What is the potential path forward?
So the path forward, hopefully, will be that it's kind of like a shot that they would give her, and it would reactivate the X chromosome that's not working. So girls have 2 X chromosomes, boys have 1. That's why there are more girls that have CASK, because the boys don't usually live, but there are some that do. It depends on the severity of the CASK gene mutation on like the gene strip that it is, you know what I mean? So if they reactivate this X chromosome link, not saying she'll be 100%, but she might be significantly better.
Wow.
And I have all the hope in the world, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. How far along is that research? And for example, if they might need Audrey to be, how do they test them, or how do they give someone the first injections?
Yeah. So, the funny part about, I don't know if it's definitely going to be an injection, but that was just like an analogy. But so they're first testing it in like a dish, if you will, to see if it works, and they can piggyback off of other more well-known X chromosome linked disorders like Rett syndrome, Angelman syndrome, which are also X chromosome linked, I believe. And they can piggyback off of that. You work with a group, and then you have to get a mouse model. So then they test it on mice. And then once it's proven in mice, that's what gets the drug companies that want to actually buy in and want to invest in something that will help. But it's also being that there's only 230 kids. That part is a little...
And I think also, before I forget, that I think it's on the 30th of May.
Yes.
There is an event going on.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're having a big fundraiser for Audrey on May 30th. It's at the Stewart Manor Country Club in my neighborhood in Garden City. And we're hopefully raising funds to fund UC Davis for this Cure CASK project that I'm very passionate about. And I'm hoping that we'll raise a lot of money for it. And because you never know, I think about all the people that Audrey has inspired and, made them want to be a better person and made them, like, if they were in an accident or if something, they were just down on themselves. If you watch my videos of her, she just makes somebody know that they can do it. Like, don't take no for an answer. Never give up. And she's affected. And I've never asked anybody for anything, but for this, I'm like, no, the community needs to come out, and they're going to.
Where would people look for more details on that online?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So it's on Eventbrite. We have a ticket link. You just search for Cure CASK Audrey and it'll pop up and you can get tickets. I think I have 175 people coming so far.
Wow.
And one of my friends from Barstool Sports is going to see it. So I'm very excited. So hopefully he'll get, and we have fabulous prizes.
You go. You got to go online. You got to go have a look.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who's listening, who's going through a difficult time of their own, where things have been really tricky and they need something to lift them up? Like, you're so full of resilience. You spread really, lift people up around you. I can see that. But what would you say to someone? What would your advice be to them?
I think I said in the beginning, like, don't let the diagnosis define you and just try to dig deep within yourself. There is something, like, God is good and good can come out of this. And, watch the videos of Audrey. She is so inspiring. I listened to your podcast and I was just so inspired by you. And look how, you turned out. It just, oh my God, it inspires me.
I turned out so well because of people like you. There's a moment when you're going through something that's difficult. When I was in hospital, when I knew that you had to open yourselves up and let other people come and lift you up as well. So it works both ways. You have to be open to be helped. And, if you're having a bad time, tell someone about it. Don't keep it inside. Always share that. So I suppose those are things that I learned as well. You're listening to Searching for Heroes with Benjamin Hall. We'll be right back. You must be preparing also that in some ways, are you looking for the next generation? Like, are you talking at schools, or are you telling other children about it? Because many people, younger children, won't know about this.
Right. So I do read my book in a lot of schools, which helps. I try to get the word out, and I spoke at one of the New York Islander games in December. That was amazing. So I had that out there.
How do you find other children sort of understand or react when you explain CASK to them? Does Audrey come with you to some of these talks?
Audrey will come with me. Yeah, she'll be at the fundraiser event too. And Vivian is like her biggest supporter. So that's amazing. But I love when children ask, like, sometimes when parents are like, shh, don't look, like, why is, that little girl screaming so much over there? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, it's okay. This is Audrey. She's 11. She has a CASK gene disorder. And I'm like, look at those swings over there. Like, for example, if we're at the park, I'm like, those adaptive swings are put there because of Audrey, because we didn't have them in my community. I called up Garden City. I said, we need to put adaptive swings in the parks in Garden City. They were like, okay, Tara. So now all the kids, when they see those swings, they call them Audrey swings. And I'm like, but they're for everybody.
Well, I was going to say, my daughters prefer those swings to the normal swings too as well. They go straight for them. But I know what you mean, because I get quite a lot of people looking at my legs, or kids looking at my legs. And sometimes the children often want to come and talk. They're interested, but you see the parents saying, no, don't look at the moment, don't look. And I always go over and I say, no, come and have a look at my robot legs. Like, it's okay. And the parents, it lifts something off the parents, because it is adults who have developed this sort of fear of talking to people. And children don't have that. Children will come right up and ask you. And it's a bigger question, but I wonder, what is it that does that? Why does society tell people to avoid it, or adults not to talk about it?
I know. And that's why, I've said from the beginning, I think, like, everybody needs to talk about it more. The more we talk about it and normalize it, and the stigma of so many things, it will, it'll help what's inside of us. Yeah. If you talk to the little kids that come up to me all the time and want to introduce, and when I introduce them to Audrey, and they're fascinated by her, right? And I mean, Vivian's friends are so welcoming to her, but it's the parents that, try to explain to them as well. And I'm like, it's okay. And I'm like, let your kids be open about it. The more open we are, the more people will be accepting of people with disabilities.
Yeah. Do you feel that it has, it's obviously changed your whole family dynamic. And so, I wonder how much attention, goes on Audrey rather than your other daughter, or how your husband has to come in. It must change the whole family dynamic a little bit.
It does, but we're all so supportive of each other. We really are. And like I said, Vivian is very protective of Audrey. She is. And I do have an amazing support group of babysitters that help me all the time. And there's so many services that are out there for people with children with disabilities that I would love to talk about too, because they, some people don't even know what's offered out there. And so I have something called self-direction with Audrey. So I have babysitters that I get paid through the state that help me. I have her diapers are funded, and it's amazing what's out there, like different classes to bring her into the community. So it's called community habilitation. And my babysitters from the camp anchor that she goes to will take her out into the community to integrate her into the community and, make it more acceptable for people with different abilities.
That's amazing to hear. So, I suppose we're not aware of how much the government or the state would do to help if you don't need it. But you're saying that actually there is a fair amount. Is there anything that you would like to see more of that you don't think there is enough of that doesn't exist?
Yeah. So my biggest fear is after she's done with school. So when school's over at 21, she goes to an amazing school called the Carmen Road School. It goes all the way up to 21. She's been there since she was 2.5.
So is that a normal school?
It's not. It's a special school where it's called, there's 6 kids in her classroom. She has a one-on-one aide. There's 2 other additional aides and her special ed teacher, but that's where she gets all her therapies. But then once kids age out of school, there's nothing for them. And that's like what I'm afraid of. My biggest fear as a parent is me being gone and who's going to take care of Audrey. And when you brought that up with, Vivian. So
what would you like to see? What could be in place there?
My dream is to have like a college-like campus of a community where people that want to work with people with different abilities and they can live there. So I know that she's in a safe place when I'm gone, and that there'll be like a movie theater there, a gym there, like a coffee shop where they can work and integrate into the community, but be a safe place that I know people will take care of them.
All right. Well, how do we make that happen? What's the steps? Who do we talk to?
I know. That's what we have to put it out into the universe, which I'm doing right now.
But where would the starting point be?
I think it's like, I start to tell as many people as I can. And I'm assuming it's donors that want to make, this happen. Because I think there's some place somewhere in Middle America, and there was like some hockey player that funded it for a community of disabled children. And it's like that. And I was like, well, we need more of these. Yeah. So we need to make this happen.
I'm going to go look those up as well. We're going to see if we can do a piece on them as well. Is there anything else before we finish up that you think is important to talk about, both about Audrey, but also about the other work that you're doing?
Well, I think the more open that we are about talking about, different abilities and, integrating like Audrey into the community and just raising awareness, you know what I mean? Because if we don't talk about it and everyone's like, shh, don't say anything. I really believe that we need to talk about it more, educate more people that we shouldn't be adapting. We should adapt to Audrey's life, you know what I mean? And try to make it better for them, especially in the schools. It's, you know what I mean? It's tough, but she goes to a wonderful school. So I'm happy about it.
Well, amazing. Well, you are just one of the most incredible people who you are so resilient and so optimistic and so fierce, as you have said it, that I know that nothing would stand in the way of you getting what your Audrey needs. And look, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
and
you.
I hope everyone listening reaches out, goes online, looks this, helps however they can. And let's just keep talking about it.
Yes.
That's what we got to do.
Oh, thank you. And she has a website, audreymccarton.com, and you can go on and see all her videos of when she first started to walk. It's amazing.
How do you spell McCarton?
McCarton.
There you go.
Audrey McCarton.
Everyone go and have a look. Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
You. So nice
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. And again, thank you so much, Tara, for joining us today. Again, I just think it's about community. That's exactly what Tara just said. The community that came out to help her, and those that don't know, she thinks it's her job to go and tell that community, to build that community. And so I think the message that I would say is we must never rest on our laurels. Just because things are going well in one sense, we must keep working to make sure that everything else is going well, trying to improve all the time. And so with that in mind, if you want to reach out, if you want to help Audrey, if you want to help raise awareness or try and help find therapy for CASK, reach out. You can go to acnrfusa.com and you can donate there as well. But thank you so much, Tara, for joining us today. And I hope each and every one of you goes out and has a wonderful day. And if it's going bad, I hope you make it better. And if someone else you know is having a bad day, go make their day better. Thank you all for listening, and we'll speak to you next week. Thanks for listening to Searching for Heroes. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcasts Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.